Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sree's daily global COVID-19 show. I'm Sree Sreenivasan, and it's my honor to convene this daily conversation around various aspects of COVID-19. Part of our series is talking about various aspects of the crisis, including the health, financial, and inequality crisis, but we also talk about life during the pandemic. And today we're going to be covering that topic in episode 204. That's right, episode 204 in 204 days of the lockdown in New York. Our topic is Canine Connections and COVID-19. This is part of our special Stony Brook journalism episodes. My students at Stony Brook School of Journalism are producing several episodes of the show as part of our Digital Innovations in Journalism course. This episode is produced by Husban Sheikh, Maheen Siddiqui, and Viren Palto. Our guests are Corey Cohen, an animal behaviorist, and Jordan, a junior at Stony Brook University and new owner of a dog that she got during the pandemic. You're going to get a chance to ask any questions you want about animals, about dogs, and COVID. You can talk to our guests in just a few minutes. Hi, everyone. I'm Sree, and I'm so happy to be with all of you. I'm the Marshall Loeb Visiting Professor of Digital Innovation at Stony Brook School of Journalism. Thank you so much for being here. I'm also the co-founder of Digimentors, a social, digital, and virtual events consulting company. Our motto, don't cancel your event till we've had a chance to talk. Just this week, we did an event with 17 heads of state, including the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, and lots of other folks. It was a 4-day conference, and we had a really good time putting that together. If you are interested in learning what we can do, please email me. It's right here, sree@sree.net, sree@sree.net. If this is your first time here, this is our show. We've had more than 1 million viewers, 148 million social impressions, 350 plus guests, 208 of them have been women, from 67 cities and 19 countries, including the chief scientist of the World Health Organization. All our archives are on youtube.com/Sreenet, and you can find all our episodes there. And we're in partnership with Scroll Global and Scroll.in. Please check them out. We're also grateful to our sponsors, and we'll be telling you about them in just a bit. And a big, big thanks to our producers, Rose Horowitz at Rose Horowitz 31, and Vandana Menon, Vandana_Menon. Please follow both of them as well. We're live right now on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. Please tag your friends right now. Anyone who loves animals should be watching tonight's episode. Please tag them. They can ask questions. They can watch later. As soon as we're off the air, this will run again on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and on LinkedIn. Okay, so are you all ready to talk about dogs and much more? Let me welcome onto their screen our special guests, Corey and Jordan, and they are here with us. Corey, I should tell everyone, is making a second appearance on this show, and he's also been on my Sunday New York Times read-along as well. So we're very grateful for Corey coming back, and Jordan's making her debut. And one of our students, Husban Sheikh, who helped put this show together, will be joining us a little later to ask questions as well. So let's start with Corey and Jordan, as well as their dogs who are with us here today. Let's say hello. Hi, folks.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here. My first question always, how are you? Where are you? And how's your family handling all of the pandemic stuff? So let's start with Jordan.
I'm good. I'm at Stony Brook University in one of our dorms here. My family, they're okay. We already went through having the disease. So now we're good. We're good.
So wait, so different people in your family had the disease, had COVID?
I did. My mom did. Besides that, we don't really know, but yeah.
Wow, I'm so glad you're okay. And and I should also say that looks very nice for a dorm room, right? That is, or you've done a good job decorating anyway.
Yes.
All right. So tell us about, just very quickly, just show on camera your new dog, please.
Yes, this is Eli. He's a bull terrier Labrador mix. He's 7 years old, and he's my emotional support animal here at school.
So awesome to meet you, Eli, and we will talk to Eli in a little bit. And also the world of emotional support animals. How does that work? It might be new to a lot of people watching tonight. And folks, if you have greetings for Eli or questions for Eli or his mom or owner, I don't know, what do you consider yourself, mom or owner?
Mom.
Okay, mom. We will get to Jordan and Eli in a little bit. Let's say hi to Corey. How are you, Corey?
Hi, I'm fine here in Northeast Pennsylvania. We're still hunkered down, and thank goodness my whole family's been fine through this whole ordeal. Getting a little stir crazy at times, but we're doing well. We're doing well.
And that's Bodhi in behind you. I asked you, is it like Bodhi Miller? It's not named after. He's not named after Bodhi. He's Bodhi.
Bodhi. It's actually, his full name is Bodhicitta, which means awakened heart, but we call him Bodhi for short.
Wonderful. Look at Bodhi. This is his, I think, third appearance as well. Yes, on my shows. Yeah. Very grateful to you, Corey, for making the time. You were with us 6 months ago when we started the shows.
6 months. It's been 6 months. Wow.
Yeah. So tell us about what life has been like. Your work is with animals. Therefore, it means working with people. So how have you managed? How has your business survived in the pandemic?
Well, it's been, for a while we were completely on lockdown. But now I'm starting to see people outside and doing some consultations still. And it's actually been quite busy with this. And I'm actually dealing a lot with emotional support dogs and helping, because Jordan, it's a reciprocal thing. As much as Eli is emotional support for you, you are also emotional support for Eli. And during these stressful times, it seems to be helping an awful lot with people and their dogs together. So what I've been doing is trying to smooth out the rough spots and create a little harmony and a little balance in that relationship, so it stays strong and stays good.
What have you learned about yourself during these 6 months, and what have you learned about animals in these particular 6 months?
Well, let's see. I learned about animals. They're pretty resilient. First of all, this has been probably in the history of dogs, as far back as I can remember, the greatest 6 months for most dogs that has ever happened, because they're not alone anymore. They are with people, even though everybody's on their conference calls and on their computers, they're still present with them. And so the dogs have actually been loving this. And in addition, the adoption rate has been skyrocketing. So a lot of the shelters have had record adoptions. Some are close to empty, which is fantastic. And so this, there's always that silver lining. And I think the dogs have really tapped into the silver lining on this whole ordeal.
Wow, I'd not thought about it that way at all. So thank you for enlightening us on that. The greatest 6 months for general dogs. Obviously, there are individuals who have lost their family members and unemployment, everything else. But you're just talking about just the general feeling that dogs now have people at home because they have been at home. And most dogs are alone during the day and they need company. We also hear that maybe dogs therefore won't know what to do with themselves once people do start getting back to normal and leaving. Is that true? Is that a worry? And also, I've heard that some people are complaining that dogs are getting too much attention and the dogs don't want quite this much attention. Is any of that true?
Yeah, they're both true. And I'm starting to see that we're a few people who are returning to work or starting to get back out. There have been some issues with a little anxiety. It's anxious enough for us when we have to change our routines and our schedules, and it's stressful, and we know what's going on. So we can mentally try to prepare as much as we can. But for the dogs who they just have to go with whatever's happening, one day you're there and the next day you're not there. And so there's no way to prepare them to say, listen, tomorrow I won't be home, prepare yourself. that doesn't work. So the stress levels on some of these dogs are actually increasing. And to the other point, as far as being too much, I don't see it quite as much with that. I see it a lot more, honestly, with some of the cats that I work with are not too happy with all the extra holding and cuddling and kind of looking at you like, hey, aren't you supposed to be somewhere by now? But the dogs are coping with it much better than that.
All right. Well, that's good to know. Let me ask Jordan, show us Eli again and tell us about the circumstances under which you were able to bring Eli into your life.
Yes. So I was just the pandemic was, very hard for me at home. I live upstate New York, in Syracuse, and it was just rough, having to uproot my whole life. And then on top of that, just coming back, dealing with a lot of stresses, whatever. I also suffered from a brain injury that was completely unrelated. But I was just going through a lot of anxiety, and I talked it over with one of my doctors, and he suggested maybe looking for an emotional support animal, because I have a dog at home, but he more belongs to my mom. And so I was searching for about 2 months before I even came back. And then on one website where owners are trying to rehome their pets, I found Eli, and it happened within 2 days of meeting him. And the previous owners came up here from Georgia, just to retire, and where they live currently, the landlord doesn't allow dogs. So they needed to give him up, and they've had him since he was a puppy, and he's now 7. So it was very sad for them.
Wow. It's so sad for them, but now a great opportunity for you. Let me ask Corey, how does this work when someone gets a new emotional support animal and that dog is new, is kind of being resettled himself or herself, their animal in that sense, or at least that's what I can tell from Jordan's story.
Well, a lot of the attachment becomes somewhat natural. Their dogs are very social creatures. They need to have relationships, and what happens with a lot of them is they go through, even a dog that comes from the best situation has gone through some relational ruptures, being at least 8 weeks old, taken away from its life and put someplace else. And that does create a bit of trauma in them. And with Eli, he's gone through a couple of them. And the fact that it's only hasn't been that long that he's been with Jordan, and he seems so calm and relaxed is a great testament to him. It shows that he's starting to stabilize and be really fit in. But dogs are natural professionals at that, in a way. They really are. Not all of them, and all of them are unique in their own way. But that it grows stronger and stronger each moment. So there's really nothing different that has to happen, as long as there is you reduce the barriers between you. I would say that probably the most important thing to do is work more on creating that sense of safety and sense of security and sense of belonging, more so than any type of control or training or anything like that, because that actually sometimes gets in the way and it creates a barrier. So the most important thing to do for the dog, and what they do for us, is help us feel safe. We help them feel safe, help them feel secure, and feel wanted. And that just makes all the difference in the world right there.
And so just to understand, there's a difference between like getting a trained seeing eye dog and an emotional support animal doesn't need training herself or himself.
No. Well, there's a service dog and emotional support dog. And a service dog, the way to sort of distinguish the difference, if you can invent a machine that could do the same thing the dog would do, that would be a service dog. So the service dog performs a specific service. Now, sometimes the service is, and I've worked and I've trained several PTSD dogs that learn to recognize the owner's triggers, and depending on, it's all different for each dog, depending on what the owner wants, to sort of de-escalate some of those triggers through their behavior, but they're trained in that way. But I think that a higher level is that emotional support dog, because it really makes us feel and makes them feel. It's a reciprocal relationship. It's not that they're just doing for us. We're doing it for them. And the only way it works is if there's this free flow back and forth between them. And again, that feeling of safety and that feeling of security, that whatever's going on, we got this, or we got this together, that can reduce massive amounts of stress and anxiety. And especially in these times, it's very, very important.
That's great to know. Thank you. I'm about to bring on our student interviewer, Husban, who is one of our producers, but I just want to see who else is watching from around the world. Let's see, Jonathan Borstein's watching from the East Village. Hi, Jonathan. And Linda is watching from Long Island with her Scottish Terrier, Woof. Paula Kiger is watching from Tallahassee, Florida. She met you when we did our episode on the New York Times read-along. Pradnya Haldipur is watching from Springfield, Maryland, along with Hawkeye and Natasha Romanoff. I presume those are her animals. And she's pointing out various dog GIFs and cat GIFs. And my mom is watching from Kerala in India. Hi, Amma, love you. I know you love animals and wish I was with you. And Carla is watching from New Jersey. Carla's our good friend and a great journalist, editor, and teacher. She has worked with you in the past with her animals. That's how we all met. And Pradnya says, that's the first time I've been able to use one of those cat emojis in context. And let's see, Pradnya's tagging her friends. We love doing that. And Chris, I guess, is a dog person. And some other people are cat folks. And Rupa is echoing you. Dogs are natural professionals. And Charles is watching from New Jersey. And Charles is not just a viewer of the show, he's a sponsor. That's his book here, The Inventor in You, and we'll talk about our sponsors later. A good percentage of my patients bought dogs for emotional support in the last few months. It is really helping them to get through this difficult time. That's Charles's wife, Mary, who works with people who have emotional issues, and as you can tell, and so she's talking about how her patients are working with that. And Maheen says, Eli's so calm. And Chris is tuning in from Manhattan. Keep up the great work. And Chris is one of our students in our class, and he was a host on our very first episode that we all did together. And Pradnya says, good call doing the puppy show tonight. We all need extra support animals right now. She might be referring to what lots of people have called the worst political debate in history that took place. And we're going to try and see if we can tempt my dog to come on camera here. She's not as cooperative as your dogs, so we will bring her. I'm trying to have her not bite my finger off while she goes for the treat. But let's bring Husban on, and he's going to talk to all of you. So Husban, greetings and welcome. Thank you for your hard work putting this together. How's it going so far from your point of view?
Yeah, so far so good. I'm just taking time to get adjusted to classes, but I'm having such a great time, and it's such a great experience for everyone. And those dogs are so cute. I'm so happy that they're here.
Great. So Husban, over to you. I'm going to take myself out, and you're going to do the interview now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Give them heck, as they say.
So hi guys, thank you so much for coming. I just think we have such a great dynamic going on since Jordan's a new owner of a dog and Corey is a dog expert. So my first question is that I know, Corey, you have an organization called Path of Friendship where you focus on like healing your pets and talking about like their mental health. And I know your motto is healing, not healing. So how do you think we should work to foster healing in our pets, especially during COVID-19?
Treat them with respect. Treat them with the same respect that you would treat your friend or somebody else that's there. They they're not that different in a lot of ways than us. I mean, they are in many ways, but as far as their emotional life, there isn't a whole lot of difference there. So when we sort of talk down to them or sort of push them aside or marginalize them at times, they'll feel that. And if they come up to us and they need a little reassurance, or they need a little, just a little loving, or just a little, just saying, hey, you know what, I just need you to pet me for a minute here. If we push them away and we reject them, that has a big effect on how they feel. It has a big effect on their emotional state and their confidence. And in turn, that ends up coming out as problems that we see. So what we want the best for them as they do for us. So we should treat them with the same respect and the same courtesy and the same consideration that we would treat each other with. And that's probably the best thing that we can do for them.
Yeah, no, that's so wonderful. So yeah, thank you so much for that. So Jordan, I know that you are a new dog owner. So how are you taking steps to treat your pet with respect? And what struggles might you be facing with adopting a pet during the pandemic?
Well, it's with Eli, it's very easy to learn sort of what his characteristics are and everything. He's a very easy dog to take care of. A struggle though, I mean, as with anyone, like, I just got a new job, and so being able to keep him, what's the word, spoiled is it's been a little bit of a struggle, but he has been spoiled to his heart's content.
I love that.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that's wonderful. I got a quick follow-up. So what would you recommend for people that are considering adopting a pet during the pandemic?
I think that you should really go over all of your options. Like, actually research into what type of pet, what type of breed of this pet. It is more costly than you might imagine. And especially like if you work from home now, like you really have to look into what your life is going to be like when things get back to normal, if that is a thing. Just because, like, I personally, I barely leave him alone. At most, I leave him alone for 2 to 4 hours. So you really have to look at that.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. And then Corey, I would love to hear your thoughts on this as well. I know earlier you mentioned that adoption rates seem to be increasing. So maybe you could talk a little bit about like the reasons why for that, or any of the potential struggles that could come up from that.
Well, the reasons why is that because people were homebound and rather than occupying themselves with going to the movies or to concerts or out to restaurants, maybe in the back of their mind, they always thought it'd be nice to have a dog around. And so having the dog and giving them time to bond is why the adoption rates have been very, very high. It's as good a reason as any, and as long as those shelters are emptying out, that's fine. As long as they stay empty, that's even better. But Jordan's right. There are some considerations as far as when you have to think sort of long term. So it's not a short term, well, let's just do this during the pandemic, and then afterwards let's get back to normal. And oh yeah, I forgot, there's the dog. That won't work. But there are a lot of ways you can prepare for that, and there are a lot of ways that you can have your dog prepare for that. And it's not so much sitting them down and saying, hey, listen, this has been great, but things are getting back. I'm going back to work. I'm going to leave the house more. But there is actually a way of actually communicating that and telling them that. And it's all about building that relationship of trust where they don't feel that they have to do everything in the world to please you, that their connection for you is on such a fragile, thin thread that even the slightest thing will break it. And that's what happens with a lot of dogs when they have when people leave. If somebody leaves, they think, oh my gosh, is it all over? Is it over? That means there isn't a lot of substance there. That attachment is not really secure. I mean, this goes back to the human field of attachment theory, going back to Bowlby, Ainsworth. The attachment with the dog has to be just as secure as it would be, say, even with a child. And so the confidence level has to be there. So even if things happen and you go back to work or you begin to leave them alone more, the dog isn't taking it that much. I call it the trust account. You have a lot of equity. If there's a lot of equity in the trust account, anytime you do anything that will withdraw from that, such as leaving the house, you're making a withdrawal. As long as there's enough in that and enough foundation in that, that withdrawal is not going to matter much. And they're going to learn to deal with it and adapt to it. They may not like it. They would prefer that you're there, but to have it where it breaks them down, that's not good for them. Obviously, it's not good for you because you'll come back to all kinds of damage in your home, and it's easily preventable with that.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for that in-depth answer. So I wanted to ask you about you meeting up with your clients. Do you feel as though that as the pandemic has progressed over the past 6 months, do you think has it gotten easier, has it gotten harder, or stayed the same? And I also wanted to ask you, like, are there any like online methods of like helping train dogs or like counsel dogs?
Well, let me answer the first part. It's been more difficult. It's definitely been a challenge with meeting some of them, especially wearing masks. A lot of what I do is I work on having the person, the human, and the dog become really attuned to each other and tap into what's known as the social engagement system. And the social engagement system consists a lot of tone of voice and facial expressions, as well as touch and things like that. But in a mask, wearing a mask, it's kind of difficult to get some of those facial expressions there. And it's one thing if I'm not there, but when I'm in the home and we are wearing masks and we're being safe, it's difficult for me to make sure that the person is using the correct facial expressions or the dog is responding correctly because we can't see. And the other thing is the challenge has been there are a lot of certain touch points on a dog that each dog is very unique in that will have their certain spots that will calm them and make them feel more relaxed. And I have to help the owner find those. So the distancing has been a challenge with that as well. As far as things online, it's really a whole smorgasbord of all kinds of things that are out there. I see some things out there that I absolutely cringe over. And I see some things that out there that are rather benign and that they're not great or there. The problem is there's no such thing as a one size fits all. I've probably worked over 10,000 different human dog relationships. And I don't know if there's been two that have been identical. And my approach has not really been identical to two, probably similar, but dogs, they don't come off assembly lines somewhere. Even if it's the same dog, the same breed, siblings, they're going to be different. They're unique as us. They're a product of not just their genetics, they're a product of their environment. And that environment starts even in the womb, depending on the birth order. So the differences are going to be there. And so there really isn't a one size fits all kind of approach. So the internet is good to get some basic generic information, but make sure that you are looking at it and adapting it and customizing it for your specific needs and for your dog's needs to have the best fit. And don't be afraid to, if you don't like what it sounds like, skip it and go to something else. There is no absolute right way, and there is no absolute wrong way either.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for that. I think that's a really great point to always take into consideration that the internet might not be the answer to all your problems, but like it's also really good to find general options while also looking for more specialized ones for your situation. So I was going to ask you, actually, are there any like sort of general calming techniques that you would recommend to a new dog owner like Jordan, who adopted a dog during the pandemic, like getting over like face mask anxiety and stress like that?
Well, I don't know if Eli needs calming. He seems awfully calm. I mean, which is great. Touch is a wonderful thing. Dogs really respond well to touch. They're very physical creatures. It's one thing to say to your dog, calm down. It's another thing to actually feel calm. But But if you yourself as a person you're feeling upset and you're feeling anxious, that's going to be communicated very quickly to your dog. They respond they're really synced up to us in that way. And the longer they're with us and the more connected they are to us, the greater that synchronization is as far as our feelings and their feelings. So if you're anxious and you're trying to calm your dog down, well, they're getting a mixed message. On one hand, you're trying to perform these sort of calming techniques. On the other hand, they know you're feeling anxious, and they can see it in your body posture. They can feel it in your touch. They can see it in your face. Dogs are amazing at reading faces, especially ours. Never play poker with a dog. You'll never bluff them. So calming ourselves first and calming them down, and quite often happens in unison, but touch and massage is a wonderful way to do that. You don't need to have any specialized type of massage. This is not therapeutic massage to help repair physical injuries. This is a calming massage, and find the places that your dog really, really likes. Try not to do it too lightly, not too hard, but actually a little force is really good, because if it's too gentle, that actually creates a more stress. That's almost like feeling like a spider on your neck, that kind of little light touch. It doesn't calm you down at all. You kind of jump. And dogs are the same way. So somewhat of a moderate touch, but the best teacher of what you're doing is going to be your dog and their response to it. And if you're doing something that you say, oh, I think that we really like this, and they're looking at you like, I don't like this, don't do it. Find another place and get feedback from them to what they love the most. And that's what you're going to continue into.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for that super in-depth and wonderful response. Like, those are really great techniques, and I feel like I learned so much. For Jordan, with Eli, have you been adopting any sort of like touch techniques or any methods of calming him down? I also wanted to ask, have you had a dog in the past? Or was Eli your first dog?
He's my first like actual dog that I own.
Mm-hmm.
I may have mentioned before, my mom has a dog upstate, and so that's kind of how I knew I wanted a dog. The dog at home is very anxious when it comes to certain things, so he's very stereotypical in that sense. If I'm anxious, he's anxious. Eli, on the other hand, he's boss. So if I'm anxious, he doesn't really catch on. But like if I sort of just tell him to come over here, he will. The only time that I've ever seen him sort of act pushy, to say, is when he needs to go out, and he's very communicative about that. He'll just sort of stare at me, nudge me a little bit, stare at me a lot until I'm like, okay, fine. But yeah, I haven't seen an anxious side of him yet. He really shows absolutely no fear.
I love that. You guys have your own way of communicating with each other. I also wanted to ask you, because I know you mentioned before that you were living on campus at Stony Brook. So how is that? How is it having an animal, adopting an animal and bringing them into your dorm and just handling them there?
It's interesting. My roommates and I, at first, we were like, wow, this is gonna be so weird to like have a dog, because like we all have dogs at home, but like to have a dog here, it's gonna be so weird. But we also, all of us came from corridor style, and now we're in suite style. So it feels more like in an apartment, and we have a bigger space. And so honestly, it doesn't feel weird at all. Even though he's a new dog to me, like he's like one of my best friends right now. It was interesting in the beginning because I'm an RA and my residents didn't know that I had a dog at first. So when they saw a dog in the hallway, they were like, hold on, what? But yeah, it's fun because now I'm known as a person with a dog.
I love that so much. And I feel like everyone needs this positivity, especially with the stress of the pandemic. So yeah, this is a question for either one of you, but like, how do you feel like adopting a pet helps deal with that stress? Or like, why would you recommend adopting an animal during the pandemic? What are some of the benefits that it may provide?
Jordan, do you want to answer that, or because you just adopted?
I mean, like I said, I was looking for an emotional support animal. And when I was talking with the owner, he explicitly said he was meant to be an emotional support animal. That was his calling in life. And I don't know why I trusted that, but I did, and it worked out really great. I mean, some dogs aren't great for that. Some dogs can obviously be more aggressive than others. I had interest in another dog before Eli, and I knew in my heart that it wouldn't work out, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't.
Has Eli been adjusting to campus well? Like, how has his experience been doing?
He loves the deer everywhere. He acts like them all the time.
Oh my goodness.
It's so fun. Yes. But yeah, he loves it. He loves sniffing all the new places. And we have trails on campus too, so we go on those every morning. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, see, I have a cat at home. I wish she was here with me right now. I would do anything to have my cat on campus. Her name is Capri, and she's so cute. But like, I feel like dogs are a little more like very straightforward with their love. My cat, I have to beg her to even come near me half the time. So I'm a little jealous, but that's so cute. I actually love it. I just think animals during this pandemic has been such a great like pathway. And Corey, I just wanted to like kind of like ask you the same question. What are some of like the benefits or reasons why you would recommend adopting an animal during now?
Same reason to adopt at any time. It really it can help both of us. It helps the animal and helps us quite a bit. And even if they're not right away, because a lot of people I work with, they just get dogs from terrible situations, or they've gone through something terrible and they just get a dog. Sometimes the bond isn't as quick as it's happened with Eli and Jordan, which is fantastic. I mean, they look like they were just meant for each other right there. But sometimes it isn't that way initially, but it always can. And again, it's with that mutual respect. By the way, I just want to mention something. I was talking about the massage and the touch. I just want to throw in there that not all dogs, especially dogs that have been through some problems, to some dogs, touch is a weapon because they've been touched in ways, being abused and being hit that they don't like. And actually, even Bodhi here, when I first got him, would not want to be touched at all because of his previous life. In that case, there's ways of touching them with your presence and being there and just sitting with them and just connecting and in the present moment with them, breathing with them, talking to them, just being with them. Sometimes that helps, and that helped an awful lot with Bodhi there. So I just want to make sure that people aren't start grabbing their dogs right away and trying to massage them, because they have to respect what's important to them. Boundaries have to be set there, and our dogs are going to set boundaries for themselves as well, and those must be respected. But part of that boundary setting and part of that whole process of learning to trust and learning to work with each other is really very healing in a way for us and for the dogs. So adopting during the pandemic or adopting after the pandemic and before, it's all a wonderful thing. I mean, they really serve a tremendous benefit for both of us to become together this way.
Yeah, no, that's so awesome and really inspiring. I love how you mentioned like just forming that mutual relationship and bond between your animal and yourself, because we have to treat them with respect in order to ensure that they're having a good time.
Right.
And Professor Srinivasan brought down his dog, and I love her. Is it a boy or a girl? Well, I love them so much. Oh, I think he's muted.
Yes.
We just brought Tara to say hello. And my wife, Rupa, who knows Corey and is a fan of Corey and his work, she's actually watching our episode tonight. She's asking Corey, how do we get Tara, this is Tara, to like being carried? She hates being carried, but if she's already horizontal on the bed, she loves being hugged. So it's not that she doesn't like being touched. She just doesn't like us coming up from behind and picking her up. She just doesn't once we have her, she's fine. But that 1 second, if she can get away, she will.
Well, don't try to sneak up on her, because that's I would announce it. Say, Tara, I know you don't like this, but I'm going to pick you up because I love you. Pick her up and hug her. And if she knows that you're going to be upfront about it, she won't have that extra anxiety saying, uh-oh, is this going to be when it's going to happen? So she won't think it every time you're near her. So honesty is always the best policy. So I do things like Bodhi absolutely hates having his nails cut, but I have to cut them. So I never try to sneak up on him and grab him. I take out the nail clipper and I say, Bodhi, I know this is not good. You hate this, but we have to do it. And this way it increases that level of trust, because he knows if I'm not doing that, I'm not going to try to grab him. So yeah, pick her up, hold her, but tell her you're going to do it. She may never love it, but at least she'll kind of come to a realization.
I mean, we think she's super smart, but she's not that smart.
Well, I don't think that has to do with intelligence. Maybe she just figures, all right. I mean, she'll probably get to the point like, all right, I know, I have it good here. This is one little thing that's not so great, but everything else is great. So yeah, I'll deal with this.
All right, that's helpful. Maheen says this is so precious, and she loves the kaleidoscope of dogs. And Carla says Sydney and Carolina say hello to Corey and Bodhi, and says that
missed you guys.
You at Path of Friendship. So tell us about Path Friendship, and how do people find it?
Well, my website is Path of Friendship.
One second. You know what they say? Never work with animals or children, right? Or as Rupa said, never work with animals who are your children. Which is what happened. I was lucky I didn't get scratched up. So sorry, you were talking about your company.
Yeah, I have a website, which is pathoffriendship.com, and then a Facebook page, Path of Friendship. I also have Path Friendship Twitter. I don't do it as much as I should on the Twitter, but I'm pretty active on the Facebook and then on my website. And I have some articles, blog posts on the website too that you might find interesting there as well. And actually, if you scroll through the Facebook, I did a whole series. I did the entire month of April. I did mindful Mutt moments, one a day, with a little video on just being more mindful with your dog. So there's 30 of those available.
So let's watch one of these.
Yeah, they should be on Facebook somewhere on Path of Friendship.
Path of Friendship. We're living in really stressful times, and
there it is.
The virus going around, and everybody self-isolating and uncertain about day to day what's going to happen. It's going to get worse. We're dealing with a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety. And it's not just us that have this. Our dogs pick up on this, and they feel this as well too. And that's known as emotional contagion. Hi, Rocco. And so we're.
Tell us about dogs and cats getting along or not in the pandemic.
Oh, they're fine. It depends on the dog and depends on the cat. By the way, this is Cecil. I don't know if you've ever met Cecil.
No. Wow.
Yeah, this is my Cecil. He's 10. There he is. You won't see my other dog, who's hates when I talk on the on Zoom. But yeah, dogs and cats, they're fine. I mean, that's on the tape there. I have a cat, Rocco, who's he's almost 18 now. But he was always like a dog in the beginning. So they get along fine.
Okay. So one last thing about our dog. What is it the right way to use treats to teach them something like that, being carried, or
it depends on what your goal is. If you're looking to really build, well, if it's something like that, it's okay to do that. I'm not a huge fan of using extrinsic motivation to get my dog to do things that I want him to do. Extrinsic meaning the carrot or the stick. Because what happens is the desire comes from the dogs develop a what's in it for me attitude, and that's not really what I want to do. So if I have a friend, if I ask my friend, listen, do me a favor, give me, come sit down over here on the couch with me. I shouldn't have to tell my friend, if you sit down on the couch, I'll give you $10. If my friend knows it's important enough to me to do that, and we are friends and we have that relationship, that they're going to be considerate. They're going to want to do it because it pleases me. It's not because I'm going to give them something, nor should I threaten them. If you don't sit down, I'm going to do something bad to you. So that to me is the ultimate and the best relationship to have with the dog. With that said, it's okay on occasion to use some sort of hook to get them to just first understand it. So if you want to do it in the beginning, to pick up some treats and give it to her. But if you do it too much, every time you pick her up, she's not going to be comfortable in your arms. She's only going to be comfortable looking for the treat at the end. And you're going to develop that kind of attitude there. And when you stop doing it, she's not going to want to do it anymore. I think the greatest lesson I ever learned from that was one of my teachers that I worked for many years ago. When I posed almost the same question, I said, why we're giving this dog treats. What happens when he stops? He says, well, they're going to stop doing it. And he said, would you come work for me right now if I didn't write your check every week? It made sense. I wouldn't do it. Oh, look, there I am.
Yeah, so we should tell everybody, this was 4 years ago. Yeah. Carla and Rupa and I came out to visit you, and we did a Facebook Live for about 40 minutes of training. And I asked the most inane questions because I knew nothing about dogs. I was actually against getting a dog, but now I've obviously fallen in love with Tara. And you said you saw that a lot, where people don't want a dog and then they're talked into it or bribed into it.
All the time. Because especially if you've never had one, or you had a different relationship, you don't know what to expect. So you think right away, oh, a dog, it's going to be expense. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be another chore. But the whole different dimension isn't there. But once you get into the relationship with them, you realize that it is not just all those chores. They're not chores anymore. You have this deep connection with them that you wouldn't trade for anything.
That's awesome. And now I see Tara 4 years ago. She was a puppy then, and we were very blessed to have her in our lives. And Corey, to have you help us back that day 4 years ago was awesome. And look at her. She's learned a lot since then too. All right, let's go back to Huspan. Do you have some more questions? By the way, Huspan, at least one of our viewers complimented you on not just your questions, but your hair.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Thank you.
So is that COVID hair, or did you grow it out, or do you always have it grown out like that?
It's like a mix. I'm going to be honest, like usually when I go outside, like it messes up, but I'm kind of just chilling with it now, I'm just rolling with it. I don't mind.
Okay. Jordan, do you have any questions for Corey? This is a prime time opportunity for you to get some advice.
Oh boy. At the moment, I don't, but
that's great.
If I think of anything.
And look at this. Mark says he's tuned in from Durham, and it was great having Corey on his show.
Yes, I know Mark.
So that's
Mark.
Yeah. And Pradnya says Tara looks like an embarrassed teenager by where the dad and mom are forcing her to be stars. Oh, that's the other thing. A lot of dog owners, Corey, think that their dog should be stars on commercials and things like that. How do you break it to them gently that they're not going to be famous and they're not going to make any money?
Well, I do know one dog that is famous. Carla's dog is famous. He's in Sydney. He was on a commercial. Yeah, it's most likely it's not going to happen. Most dogs don't make the process, and most times you wouldn't want to do it because they have to go through a whole lot of. It's stressful for a lot of dogs to go through that. But I wouldn't get a dog just for the hope of having them be the meal ticket for you being on TV. I don't think that's going to work.
Got it. Okay, let's spot a couple more questions and then we'll call it a night.
Yeah, for sure. So I was going to ask. I had a bunch. Like I was like compiling, but like for one, have you noticed any sort of increase in the anxieties dogs might face because of the quarantine? I know the quarantine is not as prominent as it was like back in March, back in like April. But like during that time, did you notice any like increase of anxiety for these dogs?
Yeah, there was, especially in the beginning. I spoke with a lot of my clients and a lot of people were calling because we were all so anxious. All of a sudden this we didn't have a lot of information. We were given wrong information. There was a lot of anxiety going on. It was brand new. So because we were anxious and our dogs didn't know what was going on, it passed down right to them. So as much as they like to have us around, in the beginning stages, they knew something was up. And I ran into a lot of issues with a lot of dogs as far as all kinds of behaviors that are a result of how they feel. Now it's sort of settled down. Everybody's kind of gotten into routines and stuff, so it's a lot better. But change is stressful, and especially if you don't know what's going on, it's even more stressful.
Oh, wow, for sure. And that kind of reminds me, I remember there was like a lot of talk about whether or not like animals could be like transmitting COVID, could get COVID. Could you probably like shine some light on that? Like,
I think as far as I probably know as much as you do, I think there was 1 or 2 cases that they said it might, but I haven't been able to find any further evidence of that dogs are getting it. And if they did get it, can they transmit it back to us? There hasn't been anything recent about that for a long time. So I don't think it's a huge concern at this point.
Yeah, for sure. And I was also going to ask, like during the peak of the pandemic, did you feel as though like there was like a lack of like accessibility for like pet supplies or like resources and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a good point. I have a friend who owns a pet store in Pennsylvania, Clark Summit. And I was speaking with her about this, and she was great. She did a lot of curbside pickup and all kinds of things, but there was a tremendous amount of anxiety about, are these products going to be available? And so there was hoarding. It was difficult to get certain brands of food that people were hoarding and stuff in the beginning, just like with us. A lot of people got panicky and bought out the shelves of the stores. A lot of people were doing that with their pets as well. Now everything is, as far as I know, seems to be pretty acceptable. So hopefully it stays that way.
For sure. Thank you. And this one's for Jordan and Eli. I was just going to ask, how is it taking care of Eli during like taking into consideration like COVID-19 procedures, like trying to walk Eli while social distancing, or like keeping on your mask, or trying to go to like the pet store? Do you find as though supplies are accessible now as compared to before?
So for walking him, I'm used to wearing a mask, so I always wear my mask outside. And I always go in the morning, or like usually during times when people aren't around. Also, a lot of people, it's funny, a lot of people who are around or out around that time that I do go out, it's usually like 7 or 8 in the morning, sometimes later. There's a lot of runners, joggers, walkers, whatever. They're not wearing a mask, and I just find that really funny. So I always, stay on the complete other side of the trail, the walkway. As for supplies, I don't even have a car, so some of my roommates do. So sometimes we go to Petco or whatever, but for most of his supplies, I've been ordering it off of like Petco or Chewy, which can be a little nerve-wracking because like I have his food on repeat delivery, just because it's more cost effective. And so I worry because the USPS is having some troubles right now. So I get a little worried about that. I haven't had issues, but we'll have to see.
For sure. Thank you for that. So I have like one more question I want to ask both of you. Like I mentioned before, I have a cat. I don't really have too many experiences with dogs. So I was going to ask, like, if you guys could share at least one tip that could help me become more like used to handling dogs or get better at handling dogs. Like, what's one way I could connect with them better?
Joe, you first, because you seem like a natural. You do. So yes.
I would say one thing that I sort of had to learn was like give them attention, but not too much attention. because with my dog at home and even with Eli, like, he definitely loves attention, but I think I tried too hard to give my dog at home too much attention. So that's how he sort of became my mom's dog. Yeah, like they definitely, I mean, I would say they love more attention than cats, but there can be a little bit too much attention, depending on the dog.
That's awesome. Thank you. I'll definitely write that one down. And Corey, do you have one for me, please?
Yeah, just be yourself around them. Be authentic. Authenticity to me is the most important thing. Your cat's authentic. Your cat's not saying, "Oh, here comes husband. I have to change what I'm doing or act a different way." No, your cat's saying, "This is me. Love me or that's it." You have to be the same thing and respect who your cat is. By the way, even though your cat is not as maybe demonstrative, affectionate, does not mean that the bond and the affection and the sentiment is not there. Cats, their style is a little different, but the inner sentiment, the love, all that is just as strong as any dog would ever be. So take heart in that. They care. So
That's so awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I'm definitely going to take those into account. I love those.
And I just want to tell everybody that if you didn't notice, Bodhi rearranged himself so that he wasn't being blocked by my logo on the rear, so he could be in prime time and be seen very well. So Bodhi understands this. But Mark has a good question. Any advice on stopping dogs from interrupting Zoom and StreamYard feeds? I've had it happen today, and in a few job interviews I was helping with. So for most things, I think the world has changed in a way where people are amused when kids come in and people show babies, show dogs, show cats. But you're in a job interview situation, something much more serious. It's not, they will be upset that the cat walked across the screen, but you don't want to be thrown off your game. So any suggestions for when it's a really important Zoom call that you're on?
yeah, you can get something that you know your dog really loves, either a chew toy or something, and reserve it only for the time. So when you go on your Zoom meeting saying, I'm on the Zoom meeting, here's this bone, whatever, you take it over here. You can even have them next to you on the floor, so they still get to be with you. But now they're occupied with this special new toy, so they're not trying to pester you constantly for attention while you're on the Zoom meeting. And it keeps
and then you take it away when you're done.
And take it away when you're done. The other thing you can do is dress your dog up in a suit and tie or a casual business attire and just pretend they're a coworker walking past. That's all.
All right. Before you go, I want to, since this is part of a class and we're all learning, I want Corey and Jordan to give Husban some feedback on this whole experience. We normally do this off camera, but since we're all talking and sharing and learning, we thought I would do it publicly. So go ahead, Jordan. What was the experience like being booked for the show and coming on? I know sort of last minute, but how did it feel for you to be on the show?
It was really fun. I mean, I definitely talk about Eli and my experience enough, but like these sort of questions were different than what I'm used to, and I really enjoyed it. And you asked the right questions and you responded and like very well. It was very engaging.
All right. And before you go, can we see Eli one more time?
Hopefully. Come here. Hi.
Oh, look at that.
Yes. Come here.
I do want to say that Fernando checked in, and so Fernando said that 2 of his dogs passed during COVID-19. So Fernando, our thoughts are with you. So painful at any time, but I think at this time when we need our companions even more than ever, my thoughts are with you, Fernando. And I know Corey and all of us are sending our thoughts as well. Mark says, any advice for elderly folks that decide to get dogs? My wife wanted to get her mother a dog, and I said, it's like, it's one thing if she wants to get the dog. It's another if you're imposing the gift because it's a lot of walking and all of that. So my mother-in-law is fantastic, is great, and she can handle it, but I worry. Yeah,
an older dog is a great dog to get if they want. So if the energy levels are pretty consistent, you don't want to get my mom's 90 something, and I wouldn't get her a retriever, a 2-year-old retriever that needs to be run 5 miles every day. But adopting a nice older dog that's nice and calm is a fantastic thing to do. To do that. And I have to say, husband, I didn't realize you're the student. You were very, very professional. And yeah, it looks like you've been doing this for a long time. So it was great.
I'm so nervous. Thank you. That makes me feel so much better.
All right. With that, we're going to let our wonderful guests go. And Husban, also thank you and congrats on your first show. So Corey and Jordan, what our students are doing is they're doing 2 or 3 episodes a week as part of our class in digital innovation, learning to do this kind of material. As you know, Corey, from having done television and everything else, what used to take a lot of resources can now be done very cheap online. And we're trying to teach them the social, digital, all of that stuff coming together. And you've been an awesome friend to do this more than once. And we're very grateful. Everyone, please follow
Thank you for having
Friendship on Twitter and find pathoffriendship.com. Please refer your dog friends or your dog friend owners to him so that he can work with them and help them. And in the old days, I guess most of your business was within some, square miles of radius of Pennsylvania, but now you can have clients around the world. So
right, we have Zoom, or whatever these things. Yeah,
exactly. Thank you very much. We'll let you all go. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, and Jordan. Good luck with school too. We didn't get to talk to you about school.
Thank you so much.
I like again what you've done with your dorm room. Give some tips for his dorm.
Oh yeah, please. The lighting in here.
Look at the 2 rooms. These are students with the same kind of rooms, and one is paying more attention to her backdrops and
Thank you.
And Muxmasakin says that I thank you so much. I learned so much from this episode. That's awesome. And Fernando, we're thinking of you. You said it's so hard to have lost the dogs at this time, and we pray for you and your family. Good luck. And thank you, Jordan. And good luck to you and Eli. And Husban, well done. Congratulations. And to your team, Varan, as well as Maheen. It was great to have all of you produce this show. So we'll see you in class tomorrow. Okay, you still have to go to class. You're not done yet. Okay, you understand that.
Right. Thank you so much. See ya.
And that was our show, produced by our students at Stony Brook School of Journalism. If you have suggestions for topics they can cover, please let us know. And before we go, we're going to thank our sponsors, and then we're going to do something that I was asked to do by the great the great Columbia Law School professor and head of the African American Policy Forum, Kimberly Crenshaw. We asked her she's the one who coined the term intersectionality. What can we do to be more supportive of Black folks and to be allies? And she said very simply, say their names. And so we're going to do that in just a moment. First, we're going to thank our sponsors for making this possible. We want to start with our friend Charles Cunnincarroll and The Inventor in You, a step-by-step guide to your first invention by Charles, developer of more than 80 patents at Inventor Charles and guidetoinvention.com. We're also grateful to Muckrack Academy for Fundamentals of Social Media, a free on-demand certification course that anybody in the world can take. Right now, it's free, and you can get a line on your resume, a line on your LinkedIn. And here are just some of the folks who have enrolled and completed the course and gotten their certificates. More than 4,000 people have signed up for this course, so please check it out. And we also want to thank 2 other shows. She's on Call, Sundays at 11. Dr. Sujana Chandrasekhar and Dr. Marina Kurian are always interviewing great doctors and sharing information. Find them at She's on Call on Twitter, on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, of course. And I want to tell you about an event that's coming up. It's called the Impact Summit 2020. A terrific event for anyone interested in politics, 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern time. And look at this great lineup. Those are 4 congressmen and women that you see first: Ami Bera, Pramila Jayapal, Ro Khanna, and Raja Krishnamurthy, and civil rights leader Vanita Gupta. So this is aimed at anyone interested in voting, but of course South Asians. And it'll be a great summit. So you can find the registration information free. It's iaimpact.org/summit, all the way on the lower right of the screen. Register. is at iaimpact.org/summit. You can take a screenshot of that or take a photo with your phone. And also this Reinvent Your Job Search, tips for finding and landing your next gig. Our Digimentors team is putting this together with our friend Mark Oppenheim. He has 3 great guests with him who will talk about job hunting in the pandemic age. And you can see the registration link at the bottom of the screen, digimentors.link/job search workshop, digimentors.link/job search workshop. And it's just $10 to attend. If you can't afford that, let me know and we'll get you free tickets. But please do join us if you can. And before we go, we are going to say their names. And we use this cover of Time magazine with the names of the victims of police brutality or police violence on that margin you see. That's Titus Kaffer's brilliant and haunting painting. You see the blue glove of the pandemic, and on the right you see Larsenia Floyd, the mother of young George Floyd, who she's holding in her arms. And every time I say this, I get emotional that she would die 2 years almost to the day that he would die, be killed on camera in Minneapolis, calling for her. They're now buried next to each other in Houston. And now we will say their names. Trayvon Martin, Yvette Smith, Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Laquan McDonald, Tanisha Anderson, Akai Gurley, Tamir Rice, Jerame Reed, Natasha McKenna, Eric Harris, Walter Scott, Freddie Gray, William Chapman, Sandra Bland. I'm going to pause there to remind you that some of these names, unfortunately, are household names. And some of these names, unfortunately, are names you've never heard before. Each of them had a story, had lives, had loves. Darius Stewart, Samuel DuBose, Janet Wilson, Kaylin Rockmore, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, Joseph Mann, Terrence Crutcher, Chad Robertson, Jordan Edwards, Aaron Bailey, Stefan Clark, Danny Ray Thomas, Antoine Rose, Botham Jean, Tatiana Jefferson, Michael Dean, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for joining me in saying their names. We're grateful to all of you for being here tonight and for supporting the show as you do by watching, by tagging your friends and sharing this with them. It'll start right after this so people can watch. Any dog lover would love tonight's episode, and we hope you will share this with them. And to our wonderful guests, thank you for being here. And anyone who has suggestions for guest speakers, sponsors, please email me. Right there is my email address. And go to my YouTube channel and hit subscribe. And also go to my Twitter page and do follow me there. And big, big thanks to our students at Stony Brook School of Journalism. And with that,